Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me in your podcast. It's really nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate Thank you. I appreciate. Well, I'm excellent. Thank you. So you join us from Lausanne,
Switzerland.
Switzerland. Yeah, 12 points. So hi from Israel, and I'm super excited to have you. It's been a while that I'm following you on LinkedIn, and I have to say that congratulations on the great work that you do.
Thank you.
And would you please tell us a bit more about you, what you do, and
Sure, I'll try. I am PMI's Chief Sustainability Officer, and I think that if you and I have been engaging and exchanging on social media for a while, I guess that is what became a little bit the regular channel of communication for the past 2 years with the pandemic. So I didn't used to be super active, but as we were all very confined to our homes and we weren't able to engage and interact and live socially the way that we normally did, I started relying more and more on these platforms. And actually it was quite nice because a lot of the work that we're doing here with the team that relates to sustainability, I was able to share it on this platform, but also start really getting direct feedback from different stakeholders, which made my job so much richer, because a lot of the work that we're doing, and not specifically to me, but sustainability in general, it is serving a plethora of stakeholders that are so diverse that it's important for me to understand if we are really catering to their needs and expectations, because they have a stake on everything that we're doing. And so this was a very egalitarian way to engage with really various and multiple stakeholders, from investors to consumers to other companies to academia, media, which for me has been quite exciting. So this is how we met.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, how would you say that sustainability took a wider place on social media for the past couple of years, since the beginning of the pandemic, actually?
Yeah, I think that sustainability and ESG has become a little bit of a buzzword, certainly for the past year or so, and it has for sure gotten accelerated by the pandemic. I think that the COVID pandemic created a degree of awareness that perhaps not many had about what are the implications of a health pandemic, what triggers it, and how everything is connected. So other systemic issues like inequality, like poverty, like climate change are so interlinked. And so, and the fragility of the state of society, and what kind of preparedness we need to build. So certainly I could sense that there was an acceleration, not just on social media, but in general by the finance community, on media, by academics. And then because of that, I could see a proliferation of conversations that started happening on social media more and more. And I see that that has both a very luminous aspect, which is that it is giving visibility to something that is so important and so urgent. And I'm glad it has allowed me on a very personal level to connect with other experts that perhaps I couldn't have had before. But then on the other hand, you also create this overwhelming amount of communications that sometimes is oversimplifying issues that are so complex, and then actually creating content that is misleading or misinforming, and then hindering a little bit the kind of progress that we are all seeking to achieve by embedding or by embracing what ESG is and what sustainability is about. So yeah.
Right. Thank you for this, because it's really important to put some perspective and had a level of what's going on. There are a lot of pros and also a lot of cons, and I can hear the conversations as you mentioned. It's really important to capture the signal in a world of noise. And I had a lot of feedback, for the past few months, particularly right now, during the summer. Somehow, for some reason, I don't know why, but I think that the younger generation are very proactive. They try, to raise awareness, as you mentioned. But the thing is that I feel that there is some weakness from corporations that don't always know how to behave. What can you say about this?
Yeah, I think that, listen, I think that sustainability is a journey. And before I answer anything, maybe I should say that, like, it's not that we are perfect. I am certainly learning. I'm certainly welcome any challenges, any questioning, because sometimes even in good faith, we may be thinking that we're doing something right and actually we're not, or we're doing things that are not as efficient or as effective as it could be. But what I think overall is that, as I was saying before, I think that this journey of sustainability has evolved quite quickly, and in evolving quite quickly, it has become more professional. The approach to sustainability has become more strategic, more structured, and companies have begun thinking about it in a way that is not a nice to have, that follows a separate route, where maybe if I have a little bit of resources, I will do something for the environment, or I will do something for society, and then I will feel good about it, and I will talk a little bit about it without really measuring impact, quantifying impact, connecting it to your business strategy, understanding externalities. And so I think that many companies are in different journeys of understanding the need to become a little bit more sophisticated in your approach to sustainability, because regulation is changing, because policy is changing, because consumer demand is changing, and because, frankly, the planet is changing, and it demands everybody to transform the way that they define success and the way that the economy in general functions. And so I think that depending on the degree of maturity and the awareness that a company has on what sustainability is and sustainability is not, how prepared they are to actually make it part of your core strategy, and so you will see that, like, I don't think there's any company today that will say, like, oh, well, climate change is not an issue for us. I think it's pretty clear that it is. I think that the challenge now is, how honest are you about understanding both the impacts that your company is having on exacerbating the effects of climate change, and also what is the effect that climate change is having on your business continuity, and what is it that you're doing to adapt, and what is it that you're doing to build resilience, and what is it that you're doing to mitigate the negative impacts that you're having on society and on the environment. And so that degree of candor also demands a degree of sophistication and understanding that I don't think many have at the moment. And if they have it, they are prepared to disclose.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you. I have plenty of questions, actually. Thank you for mentioning everything here. I just want to go a bit deeper, on the strategy point.
Sure.
Because, every company has its own strategy with specific purposes, specific missions, specific teams, and specific knowledge as well. And in this somehow playground, I see, companies, high-tech companies, particularly in the cloud industry, doing their own sustainability report. I see the industry from, premium products that are doing their own reports. What type of suggestions and recommendation could you please provide, to the audience to help them drive into this water of reporting and strategies, and
Yeah.
have a bit of an approach, just to provide an overview.
Yeah. I think that, listen, I think that first and foremost, there's out there frameworks and standards that help companies find their way on how to report and what to report. And as we're speaking, you and I, there's a lot happening out there in terms of standardization and harmonization of frameworks and standards to ensure that companies are producing data that is reliable, that is comparable, and that can serve investors in a way that is useful for decision making.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think that is important internally, without relying on this external environment, is for companies to be honest about their materiality from a sustainability standpoint, and where are those bigger impacts. And so first and foremost, for any company that wants to be not only serious about sustainability, but credible about their efforts and their reporting, I think the first step is to do a thorough materiality assessment where you really understand both and following the principles of double materiality, which is what we have done, understand what are the impacts that you're creating on society, and also how different sustainability or ESG issues are impacting or could impact and represent risks to your business continuity, because that is what is going to allow you to define a strategy where you are allocating resources in a strategic way, and B, report on what is relevant. And I think that, for example, if you think a company like ours, I could very easily rely on ESG or reporting frameworks that are out there, or standards like GRI, like SASB, like the Integrated Reporting Council, that are doing a fabulous job, especially now in coming all together. But then there's also something that is very specific to our company, right? And every company has this. Our value proposition is unique to us, to PMI, and our company is transforming. Our company is seeking to make cigarettes obsolete, to no longer base its success on making or selling them. And that is the most material aspect of our company, of our business, of the impact that we create. And therefore, this is the most important issue that we need to report on when we talk about sustainability related disclosures. And so if I just produced an integrated report or a sustainability report, or if my non-financial ESG disclosures were constrained to these frameworks that are given to me, I believe that our reporting would be incomplete, because the most material aspect is that one that relates to how is it that your company is changing. And that's why what we have done in a very intentional and careful way is to introduce a set of bespoke KPIs that are unique to our company, that we call business transformation metrics, that come in to complement our traditional ESG disclosures, and that explain in a very transparent way, how is it that our company is reallocating resources to become something different? And so there are a combination of financial and non-financial KPIs, and they allow any stakeholder to take a report, read it, and understand by themselves both the pace and the scale of the transformation. And that way, I think that we are giving a kind of disclosure that is not only complete, but it really allows our stakeholders, investors, and other stakeholders to really understand how our company is internalizing negative externalities, how is it considering ESG as an input, and how really is it that we're defining sustainability in terms of an outcome.
Yeah, and thank you. I appreciate it. It provides a practical perspective, and it's excellent. I have two other questions, and that came into my mind while you were exploring a bit the field. In terms of technology, I'm not talking about measuring the impact, because that's another topic. But in terms of technology, how would you define the state of actually what's going on around the globe, on your side, of course, but also from an external perspective? Do we really need to reinforce innovation, technological innovation, if we want to make a better impact?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to sustainability, if you look at many companies, a lot of companies are doing sustainability as an effort to mitigate risk and create operational efficiency in terms of resources, natural resources that are being used. And I think, or in terms of employee policies related to, I don't know, diversity and inclusion or well-being. And these are all really important things that in any case, all companies should be doing. But I think that the competitive advantage that comes from sustainability comes from innovation and growth, comes from really taking that ingenuity and creativity and resources that a company has to invest in building solutions that are better for the organization, that are better for shareholders, that are better for employees, that are better for the world, for the planet. And so I do believe that technology and innovation play a really important role. I think that having the right regulation in place is paramount. Regulation that can foster innovation and that can mitigate adverse consequences of or negative impacts of that innovation or of that technology. But I think that I think that embracing the creativity and the ingenuity that people have and people coming together have to find solutions is not only a very important part, but an essential part of sustainability, especially when we connect it to business.
Business interest here is very sensitive and complex at the same time. What do you think about, the new wave of startups focused on carbon zero, energy efficiency? How do you manage your relations? Do you have any interest in them? As a corporate?
We have a lot of interest. I think that any company that is serious about decarbonization, especially related to Scope 3, needs to be very interested on what technologies are out there for carbon capture, for carbon sequestration, to ensure that your goals related to carbon neutrality are not based on offsetting, right, on carbon credits. Because we all understand that in order to have an impact, the impact will be measured by really reducing the number of CO2 particles that are out there. And so we also know that even having the best strategy to transition into a low carbon economy, which we have in place and we published last year, in order to reach our net zero by 2040, a lot of that is relying on technologies that actually don't exist yet. And so I think that it's really important to not only keep an eye on what is happening with startups and innovation and technology, but also, especially as a company like ours, be part of platforms and multi-stakeholder initiatives that can shape the environment to foster policy and foster innovation. I think that many times, even if we have the will and we have the intention to, for example, transition completely to renewables, in some countries, the infrastructure simply doesn't exist. And so what will it take for the infrastructure to exist is a very complex set of supply and demand measures. And for these supply and demand measures to function in such a way that we can all move away from fossil fuels, technology, among other things, plays a very important role, and we need to hold space for that. And so we're very much monitoring and engaging and researching what are the new technologies out there that could be compatible with our decarbonization strategy so that we can achieve our goals in time.
Wow. Excellent work, first of all, and congrats on this. One last question about, the future. What's the vision, that you have for the 5-10 years ahead? You consider, people coming up, to sustainability jobs and what I'm trying,
for like the sustainability field in general, you mean, not for the company.
It's really,
I think that, listen, something that gives me hope is that if I think about the sustainability professional per se, I don't know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I went to university, he couldn't go to university to study sustainability, you know, or sustainable business or whatever. Like the construct and even going to business school, the definition of success and the definition of the role of businesses in society, a la Milton Friedman, was very different to what we're doing today. And so something that makes me happy to see is that more and more universities are introducing either complete curricula or elements of sustainability considerations or ESG considerations into courses or into syllabus or into modules or programs, so that really the future professionals that are coming out of university are really thinking differently, you know. And I think that will change drastically the landscape, because we will have a generation of individuals that will come into business to challenge the status quo and to question if this is really the best way of doing things, mindful that we're living in a planet where natural resources are limited and define perhaps an era where degrowth can actually be successful. So this is what I hope is going to happen, that we will generate a new economy that is actually sustainable with the right nudges in place, and where different parts of society play their role in a constructive way. And companies can be a force for good. And I really think that can happen, especially for me, working for a company that traditionally has been considered as adding no positive value to society. If a company like ours can transform and can so radically, so profoundly, and put resources in place to really not only commit to it, but report on it and showcase exactly how it's happening and how fast it's happening, then I think any company can do it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Thank you, Jennifer. That was excellent. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for
my pleasure.
For sharing and your generosity and providing us with perspective and clarity. It was an excellent interview, and I look forward to having you again. And yeah, I mean, please let us know whatever you want us to mention, if you have any news.
Will do. And likewise, I think that, listen, I think that you're doing a terrific job. And I think that efforts to elevate voices and elevate messages and elevate dialogue and discussion on topics that are so important, I really appreciate, and I will be the first one to amplify and help in any way I can to really allow you to reach more people and make sure that you're using your power and your influence to drive change in the right directions.